In this video, we're going to show you how to create an access point cluster, and we're going to talk a little bit about band steering and the Neutron solution wireless management controller interface. So what we're going to do now is log into the EWS 7928P, which is a 24-port switch. So as you can see, after we log in, the interface displays, and you can see that there's two sides to the interface. There's a switch side for configuring the settings of the switch itself, and then there's also the controller side for managing the access points off the switch. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how the switch discovers access points that are connected to it, and we're also going to create clusters of access points on the network. If you click on the access points page, you'll see that we already have two access points that are connected and two that are already established as a cluster. You'll also see on the right that we've got two other access points that have been detected but have not yet joined the network. When you click on the blue rectangle, you'll see a drop box appear that shows the different APs and their MAC addresses. By simply putting a check in the open box, you can quickly add them to the managed network. For this example, we're going to use DHCP to assign an IP address to the access points. Now we'll wait for the DHCP server to assign the IP addresses. So here's the first cluster that was already configured with this switch. So now we're going to create a second cluster with the two new APs that have joined the network. If you go to the Active Clients page, you can see the client MAC addresses of all the devices that are connected to the APs in the first cluster. So let's go back to the access points page, and you'll see that the two new access points are provisioning. They've received their IP addresses, and eventually now they're online. If we go to the AP clusters page, you'll see that the first cluster is named PLM Office, and I can add those two new access points to the existing cluster. But instead, we're going to create a new cluster for these two new access points. So let's select the AP cluster setting page again, and then click the Add button. So let's call this new cluster Main Office. So now we simply come down and select each access point, and then just click the Add button to join them to the cluster. So let's open the Radio Settings tab and assign radio settings to the two new access points in the new cluster. First, we'll start with the proper country code. So let's go ahead and set the 2.4 gigahertz band to 20 megahertz. So if we go down to the WLAN settings for 2.4 gigahertz, we can then assign an SSID for that frequency band. So we'll just call this Ingenious Office. So if you scroll down, you'll see settings for traffic shaping, fast roaming, and of course your encryption settings. So we're going to select WPA2 PSK because that's really the most secure wireless encryption setting available. And to make sure that we're still moving data at end speeds, we'll select AES. And we'll just use Ingenious as a passphrase. Now let's go down to the WLAN settings for 5 gigahertz, and we'll apply the same settings that we've just applied on the 2.4 gigahertz frequency band. So we'll use the same encryption setting, and we'll use AES again, and the same passphrase that we used on 2.4 gigahertz. So the reason that we've used the same settings on both frequency bands is that we want to apply band steering. So what band steering does is it enables the access points to detect dual band clients on the network. Once the access points detect a dual band client, it will automatically shift the wireless traffic to the 5 GHz frequency band for that client. This opens up the 2.4 GHz frequency band, which tends to be a more congested spectrum. So now we've established two different clusters of access points, each with different configuration settings. In this video, we're going to show you how to create an access point cluster, and we're going to talk a little bit about band steering and the Neutron Solution Wireless Management Controller interface. So what we're going to do now is log into the EWS 7928P, which is a 24-port switch. So as you can see, after we log in,